the reason I wanted this job was to come and do something, make something happen for the island, give it an outcome that I could be proud of, but other people could be proud of and engage in.
Yeah.
It was the opportunity that attracted me more than anything else.
I get where you're coming from.
Welcome to Island Influencers, where we share stories of successful business owners, experienced professionals, entrepreneurs, and community leaders based or with influence in the Isle of Man. This podcast is brought to you by Thornton Chartered Financial Planners, because great financial planning has the power to change your life. Now here's your host, Sharon Sutton.
In this episode of Island Influencers, I welcome Deborah Heather, CEO of Visit Isle of Man, to share her story and ambitious plans for the island. Deborah's early childhood was in Durham, and at 9 she moved to Hong Kong with her family. Her experiences abroad and back in the UK shaped her perspective and led to a successful career in the hotel industry, ultimately guiding her to her current role. She discusses the ambitious target of attracting 500,000 visitors by 2032 and the innovative strategies her team is using to achieve this goal. From overcoming challenges like seasonality and connectivity to embracing digital solutions, Deborah offers valuable insights into leading a tourism organisation. She talks about her personal life, her love of cycling, and the unique charm of the Isle of Man. This episode is packed with inspiration and practical wisdom from a leader dedicated to positively impacting the Isle of Man. So, here is Deborah Heather in episode 127 of Island Influencers. Thank you so much for coming to the studio, Deborah. Deborah Heather, Chief Executive Officer of Visit Isle of Man. You've been in that role for a little while now, haven't you, with some stretching targets?
Coming up to 2 years, actually. End of March will be 2 years, and I was a volunteer on the Visit Isle of Man board for a year before that as well. So
yeah. Oh, excellent. Well, I wonder, before you start telling us how you're going to attract 500,000 visitors to the Isle of Man by 2032, all about yourself and where you come from, and what brings you to these shores?
I guess, I mean, my career has been as a hotelier most of the time. I basically went straight into running events and organising weddings and things like that in the early stages of my career. I just fell in love with it. It was the variety. It was kind of dealing in that happiness business. And actually, even before then, when I was at uni, I used to work at Durham University, at University College. So I remember putting on a licensed spitulars do for 500 people when I was 18.
Something else.
The catering manager was on holiday. It was quite a stretch. And my older brother did help me. But yeah, just loved the variety, loved the sort of dynamic of it. And it is the happiness industry business. So it really did attract me to it to carry on. Various corporate hotels I worked for.
Yeah, but before that, you had a bit of an unusual upbringing.
Yes,
if I'm right. I read that you were brought up in Hong Kong.
Yes,
when you were 9.
Yeah, my dad was anti-corruption squad. Independent Corporation Against Corruption in Hong Kong. So we moved there when I was 9. I'm Durham, from Durham originally, and Barnard Castle, funnily enough, which is only famous for Dominic Cummings, really. There you go.
I think it was pretty famous before he got there.
Maybe. But we moved straight from a small market town in the UK to Hong Kong, which was quite life-changing, I guess, at the age of 9.
Yeah.
Went to school there. That's kind of where I got my love of hotels, because the first thing they do is put you up in hotels. So we spent the first 3 months of my dad's first tour in a hotel, and they were quite from a girl from a sort of rural Durham type background. It was quite a different experience. And then when we went for my dad's second tour, we ended up doing the same thing. They always do it. They make you go off island for quite a long time. Obviously, you have to do it around the school holidays. But yeah, so my brothers and I had quite a different upbringing at that point in time.
Yeah, sounds like it. So you came back to the UK to go to university then at that point? Or
I came back when I was 16.
Right.
And went back to school in Durham, did my sixth form and then did university. And as I said before, just sort of because I worked at Durham Uni in the holidays and that sort of stuff, I fell into the trade and just really enjoyed it.
Well, what degree did you study?
Economics.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a pretty, what's the word I'm looking for, academic background in order to see what really goes on
Yeah, I think I've always been quite a practical operator, so it was always not so much that interested me. It was how that worked in real life, and therefore the love of hotels, to be honest.
Oh, fantastic! So, what was your first opportunity when you left uni? Where did you end up?
In a small place in actually they're called handpicked hotels now. A small place in Cobham in Surrey. Mainly, it was 1992. No, have I do that right? 1991 or two? Well, 1992. Right. And went to work and had done some work experience and work in hotels up in the northeast.
Yeah. So, an economics graduate, what did you start? What role did you start in hotels?
In events. So I was running. I was an events coordinator. But from that stage on, you could see how it applied, because you would look at diary management, the commercialization of events. It was all, we talk about menu engineering, but you were doing events engineering at the time. So really looking at profit margins for each thing. And so I came up through that route. I did quite a lot of sales and marketing, but also revenue management through hotels. So that is about pricing strategy. It's about, it is the commercialization of those properties, but also thinking about the outside world, the markets, the demand curves and all of that. But in those days we were manually forecasting stuff, so it was quite interesting times.
You could have done with a maths degree at the same time.
Well, yeah, there was simple sort of pencil and paper and
yeah. Oh gosh, and so from there, where did you end up? You said, I mean, I noticed that you did hotel careers, but you ended up doing a Cornell University General Manager program.
Yeah, so I went through. There was almost an attitude in hotels at the time that if you were sales and marketing, you didn't understand how the commercialization worked. But because I'd done revenue management as well, I was kind of trusted. In those days, they used to promote people from a food and beverage background, and you know, to run a whole property, because they thought about it very much in hospitality terms. But then some bright sparks started thinking about, actually, we need to think about this in a commercial sense. So because I'd had that background, I had been working, doing revenue management for the Queen's in Leeds and Forest Pines, which is in Lincolnshire. One was a golf resort, the other one was very much a corporate city centre hotel. And at that point, they'd bought out a group of country houses. And so I rang the then MD and said, when he had a general manager's role in one of the country houses, and said, I'd like to do it. And he said, you weren't the first person I was thinking of. But then gave me the role, which was brilliant. So because it wasn't a traditional route, most people wouldn't consider it a route to general management, or at that time they wouldn't. Now it's much more a prerequisite. You have to have that commercialization to do it. And it went from there. So young family at that stage, and did another couple of hotels, and then we moved to Devon. My brother had moved down there. He's an engineer with the railways, and every time we went to visit him, we got Devon envy. He was going kite surfing after work, and we were driving through the rain in Leeds and stuff. So, but yeah, so we moved down to Devon, and I ran a social enterprise, a hotel that was a social enterprise. So that was a really interesting.
Goodness.
I think when you've got young children as well, you get a sort of a different way of thinking about things. You want to give things back, and you want to do something that's a bit more worthy. I'd run, hotels. I'd worked in hotels owned by the Duke and Duchess of Devonshire. I had Michelin-starred backgrounds, but most of my experience was very corporate. So I had to take this estate, which is called Dartington Hall, just near Totnes, and turn it into a machine that made money on behalf of the charities it supported, which was very wearing, but it was a really great challenge. In retrospect, you think, wow, that was hard work, but actually it was amazing.
Yeah.
And we lived in the most beautiful part of the world as well, except for the Isle of Man, obviously.
Yeah, of course. And the driving through rain.
Yeah.
Occasionally.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, that's really, fascinating. And so how did you get to do the US program? Did you go out there and do it?
Yeah. So you,
that was 2012.
2012.
The Olympics year.
Yeah. So it was. You apply through. It's called the Master Inn Holders. So it's a program that they run for people to support them, especially in independent properties or independent businesses where there isn't the same funding. They get funding from the Savoy Trust. So I applied for it, went through the interview process. And actually, it was probably one of the best educational experiences of my life. It was amazing.
Yeah, and that was you did a master's there.
Yeah, no, it's a specific general manager's program.
Okay,
for hoteliers.
Mm-hmm. And then probably left hotels in 2014.
Well, sort of. I did. Yes, I did. But I went
an unusual career change.
Yeah. Well, we were. I was offered actually a role on Guernsey, and at the time, my children really didn't want to move. We had not long relocated from Leeds, maybe 3-4 years. They were very settled. They were at an age where they really didn't want to leave their friends and everything. And so I looked around. And the thing with being in Devon, it's very leisure orientated. It's not, much commercial stuff. So I knew that. I knew two things. One, I didn't want to be just saying hello and welcome back to Mr. and Mrs. Smith every Saturday night because they've come back for the third time that year type thing. Very lovely, all of that, but not really me. I kind of needed that side of things that had a business orientation. I actually went to work for G4S, who at the time were running an outsourced contract for Visit England, Visit Isle of Man, Visit Jersey, Visit Guernsey. So
not really an unusual career change.
No, I went to run the quality schemes for
so you weren't going around checking alarms and
No. This was the star rating schemes as was at the time. They wanted somebody from the hotel industry. It was great fun.
It's a big group, isn't it, G4S?
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, because of the Olympics piece in 2012, they decided to, and some of the issues they had, they decided to sell the non-core businesses, which included the one that I worked for at the time.
Right.
Interesting stuff. But yes, it was aligned, and therefore my relationship with the Isle of Man began at that point.
Right, okay. So because you then decided to move here.
Yeah, so from 2014 on, I was running that contract, and I would come over here to recontract, touch base with the team here, to find out what was going on, to try and advise them about what was going on in the rest of the world. And I just always felt it was a beautiful place for a start, but that it was punching below its weight in terms of the amount of tourists. Now, some people might be very happy with the amount of tourists, but there is that piece that, you can always do some more, and they do bring cash into the island, and they are very good for the economy. And it's actually a really natural fit with the Isle of Man. Some people challenge me and say, oh, do people not want tourists? I've never, ever had that impression since I've been here. But anyway, yes, so I joined the board as a volunteer in 2022, and then the chair decided to restructure and put a CEO's role. Just couldn't get it out of my head. Sort of passed it before Christmas over to my husband as a job description and went, I'd really like to do this. And he looked at it and went, yeah, it's you. So he moved here without having ever been before. So
lovers.
Yeah.
How great.
Yeah. So, and it's a really exciting role with loads and loads of opportunity. There's just loads we can do.
So it's a pretty, like I said at the start, a pretty ambitious target. Because how many visitors do we currently get? Around 300,000?
We've just got our numbers in at just under 330,000 for 2024. So
that's good, because you were targeting 300,000 in. You were targeting that. So
so 330. For 2024, just under. I think it's 3296 something.
That's okay.
That's okay. We'll take that. It was 318 in 23, and obviously the pandemic years are a little bit of a anomaly. So we sort of don't really look at them and just think about 2019, which was about that 318. So we had a good recovery in 2023 as well.
Did you ever look back as far as because it seems from somebody who knows little about tourism, only that TT seems to bring a lot of people in, and you'd have to be, living under a rock to not notice that. But I think the biggest year for TT was the centenary year.
Yeah.
And I don't know that record ever was beaten.
Off the top of my head, I think last year was pretty much on a par with it.
That's interesting. Okay. And the Twitterati would make you think that that's not the case at all. I mean, how do you? Is it a pretty robust recording system so that you can't game the numbers?
Exactly. So we use, because it's over a year, we use a passenger survey, which I've had data analysts look at, and they have said it's really robust in terms of the numbers that they interview and they talk to. There are various other things we're looking at to help quantify that some more. Like we're talking to MasterCard at the moment about being able to look at transactions and all of that sort of stuff. But it's a fairly, well, it is a well-known, it's called the Cambridge model. It's a well-known way of counting tourists. A little bit more difficult with TT, but you can measure who's coming in and out. That's the beauty of being on an island.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, so defined borders, defined population. Yeah. Oh, interesting. And in terms of, the metrics that you're looking at, are there any specific ones that you're trying to attract? I don't know, sector types, or, I mean.
So we look at demographics, but actually we more try and think of them in tribes, what they might like to do here. Because it's
like that.
It's less. Well, I did get it off a chap on the island, so I can't claim it. But nowadays people tend to buy in terms of interests and experiences they like to have. We target certain markets at certain times. We have various underlying programs, so we know that 60% of our visitors like to come and do something outdoors. We know
year round,
yeah. It's surprising. So that's where it kind of goes wrong, because the local opinion is not the same as the visitor's opinion. So we end up with I think it was a 98.6% satisfied or very satisfied from visitors. You wouldn't get that from the locals.
That's pretty cool.
It is, and they know what they're coming for in the winter. So having moved here from Devon, it's not any different. It goes really quiet in the off season.
Yes,
but we never went to Cornwall except in the winter, because Devon and Cornwall are rammed in the summer. So
yeah,
as a sort of local, I think you do see things differently, and you can't let that prejudge in terms of what other people think. I think everybody thinks like them. And
oh yes, we all love our own opinions as well.
Well, everybody's a tourist, aren't they? So in this world, funnily enough, I had that analogy with somebody this morning. So where people watch sports and things, they all think that they understand what that means because they've watched Match of the Day and all of that. And the same with tourism, because it's one of those things that's regular in our lives. It's something we do.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean to say that your opinion is the same as...
No, absolutely. And if it's evidence-based, so you've got, presume you have statistics from all the accommodation providers, and seems to be much more diverse than it ever was with
and
the way island escapes.
That's the way the world's gone. So, I mean, island escapes and the self-catering product on the island is just under, I think, about 450 properties. We're nothing compared to Cornwall. Will be 17,000. It's
really,
yeah. We need to get some perspective on things. There's something about the outside in rather than
interesting,
the inside out.
Yeah.
But they're doing really well.
They're actively recruiting in that sector, I guess.
Yes, they are, it's certainly for certain markets like families. It's a great product for extended families, which is also very popular these days.
Yeah.
There's certain types. We need more rural accommodation, so we need more offers of, because we have it instinctively in our DNA, this get away from it piece.
Yes.
We need more properties that can accommodate for that as well. But obviously, like any location, it's a balance between locals wanting accommodation, and we haven't run into a problem. And I think actually that's something the Isle of Man can be really proud of. So there is a registration scheme here. There's a registration system for holiday accommodation. That's something that the rest of the world is trying to resolve. You've seen it in the press about Berlin and Barcelona and London, and how do we stop people just subletting and doing this thing where they're inventing their own holiday accommodation. Can't happen here because we've got legislation that protects against
it. Oh goodness, I did not know that. What an amazing feather in our cap.
And so there are people worldwide trying to copy this. Yeah. I mean, it's a little clunky and we could digitalise it a bit, but actually the fact that it wasn't removed from the Isle of Man has protected against, not necessarily over-tourism, because that probably wouldn't have happened, but it's protected against that homestay market where people might not be operating at the right levels of health and safety or honestly. It has protected against that sort of bad actor type
Yeah. So
turning out.
Is that? I mean, forgive my ignorance here. I don't know the Airbnb market. Is that where you're?
So interestingly, Airbnb is they started it. They started this whole thing, and people potentially didn't behave properly. They actually have lots of great operators on their site because they are. They charge a low commission. So they are what we call an online travel agency. They charge low commissions, and therefore lots of operators use them as a distribution site because that's a good way of letting their customers or potential customers know about them. Some of the others, like Booking.com, Expedia, charge a lot higher commissions. But equally, they've all got massive data that you can attract customers from as an operator.
Yeah, of course. So it's more difficult for the likes of Jake and his business to.
Yeah, John. Yeah,
John.
Yeah,
sorry,
that's all right.
That's the dad. Yeah. Always made that mistake. So
they're really clever at it. They actually get 75% of their business direct.
Brilliant.
Because they built it to operate like that, and that's what everybody needs to be doing.
Okay.
In some ways, that's the way Visit needs to play that role to help the stakeholders on the island to commercialise and to be more profitable. But in the end, you're always going to new markets, new feeder markets in terms of incoming customers, or off season. So this time of year, you're always going to have to use a bit of what we would call of the online travel agencies.
Yeah, okay.
So it should supplement rather than be the...
I'm interested in what you just said about we could do that. Is that something that Visit could collaborate with digital on? Or, I mean, you might be doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not easy, and nowhere else...
And finance as well.
Yeah.
They're all linked. Well, the world's linked, doesn't it? But
nowhere else in the world is there a system like this.
Yeah.
But it's using what digital systems there are out there, and then enhancing the offer to attract customers. So through socials and all of that sort of stuff, and using what we think the solution will be is AI to join up the customer journey. It's not simple, but it's actually more doable because of AI. Because AI can be quite quick and is quite flexible and is developing all the time.
No, that sounds very promising. John, when he recorded his podcast, John Kagan, he reckons that and I hadn't thought of this at all, was the first step that many people choose to locate is to come and visit, and how, especially with what we're seeing in the UK right now, with how many millionaires left?
Yeah,
10,000 millionaires have left the shores of the UK because of the Labour government's strategy of increasing taxes, which nobody, especially wealthy people, don't like paying tax. Have you noticed? Yeah. Then it's it seems that has, I don't know, does that have legs?
Oh, yeah. I mean, our colleagues in Locate, so that's about attracting people and giving them all the right information, actively push the whole, it starts with a visit type campaigns. That's their campaigns to get people here. And actually, it really does. I think we're hearing more and more stories from the estate agents that people are on lists looking for stuff. And
it's interesting. I mean, as financial planners, we get and I suppose everybody in the sector will be the same. We've all got our fair share of inquiries they start as tax tail wagging the dog. Our response is always, well, book yourself a trip over on the boat. Here's all the links to, Visit, Island Escapes, whatever. Come and see it for yourselves. I wonder if there's a bigger piece there that could be...
No, definitely. I think there's more to be done. I think there is more to be done about communicating what the Isle of Man PLC actually is off island.
Yeah.
It's really come to my attention that we probably do the most consumer marketing there is, compared to my colleagues in the agencies. Obviously do lots of marketing, business development, but they're targeted to certain industries and certain strategies that they've got, whereas ours is very consumer-led.
Yeah.
So I think there's a really important thing about telling the Isle of Man story and attracting people from lots of different levels and lots of different sort of...
So where's that focused on? I suppose you have to be quite careful not to do mile wide, inch deep. Where do you sort of focus your efforts?
So we've built a campaign called Extraordinary Isle, which is is seasonal and shows the island off in different parts of it. Basically tries to give a platform for lots of different businesses or lots of different attractions that we have on the island. Tries to capture the essence of the island, because there's no point lying to people about what the island is about either. It is a really magical place. It's really safe. It's really beautiful. It's untouched. It's authentic. It has its own character. So we try and bring out the stuff that's in the DNA of the island. And obviously we've got the biosphere. It's like a superpower.
Yeah.
And TT's the same.
10 years old next year.
Yeah, I know. Unbelievable. But we've got so much to offer that as I go back to what I was saying before, I think locals can underestimate, because they haven't got Liverpool one on their doorstep, and they might like to go shopping occasionally and that sort of stuff. For people that have that on their doorstep, it's the polar opposite. They want something that is experiential, it's quiet, it's, they want something that's at peace with nature, and it's a different product. But so we've got a seasonal campaign, and then what we try to do is focus on things that are coming up through the year. So for this year, it's the 200th anniversary of the railways. It's the Archibald Knox programme that Manx National Heritage are doing. So there's a couple of other things coming up that I can't really talk about, but there we go. Well, there'll be a sort of I'll touch on that. There'll be a sort of celebration around Mark Cavendish, and then obviously we got the money around for a mountain bike trail, which, depending on what's going on in the plantations of the trees at the moment, post the storms.
Yes, absolutely. There's supposed to be a way to link them all, so you can.
Yes, that's exactly what we're trying to do. Yeah, so that's building, that's redeveloping the track that's already been made, and then extending it with the idea that they're linked seven.
Did I tell you my main hobby is cycling?
Cycling, is it really fantastic? Yeah. Well, it's the year of the cycling thing that we're going to focus on a lot as well. So there's various different celebrations and things coming up that we'll enhance as a reason to visit. Often you're just trying to capture people's attention.
Yeah,
if you engage and capture their attention, then it's there's all the usual wildlife. So there'll be stuff on different seasons of wildlife, what's good to look at each month. We just have to tell the story of the Isle of Man.
Yeah, and I suppose you would traditionally look at the main places people fly in, or they come by steam packet. Do you still get as many cruise ships, or
we get more? We've got the most this year coming, fingers crossed, weather permitting, than we've ever had. So.
Are you doing anything on? Because I know a lot of the Americans who come here.
Yeah,
all right, they're not really a target market for anyone in financial services, because they're the IRS is difficult to deal with. It's just so But they're really keen on their heritage, aren't they?
Really keen on their heritage. Really keen on things like Nicalo. The story of the Isle of Man, the Celtic piece. That there's lots of things
Vikings.
Here. They're often Vikings. They're often really surprised at the length and depth of the offer. So I think they can pop over from Dublin or Liverpool and go, we'll stay for a day, and then suddenly go, oh, we miss so much.
Yeah.
But you can do those through other types of marketing. So something I want to, again, digitally, something I want to explore with John and potentially through a digital solution is trying to get on the programme for Marriott Homes and Villas. So that's all about reward cards for Marriott.
Yeah.
And that audience is massive across the world.
Oh, it sure is.
So, there's opportunities for us to promote, but in a much more subtle way that Joe Public wouldn't see.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing all that. It sounds so exciting. But before we get to what you're going to do in your future, let's just let's delve a little bit more into, growing up for you, I mentioned my day job is what was, and I know you've had a career of economics led. Was it a family thing? What was money like growing up?
My parents were typical working class. I mean, my dad was a miner. My mum's was you wouldn't think with my accent. Anyway, there is a hint of northern in there, but
not Geordie.
No. Well, my parents still have accents. They don't, they haven't lost it. But I was 9, and Hong Kong kids from 46 different nationalities in our school. So it was English Schools Foundation, but they had to do so. It was the most popular place to send so you're sitting next to billionaires' kids and but equally people that were like my parents from their background. So no, I guess money was, especially when we were younger, it was really quite tight. I had they weren't calipers but special shoes made because I had pigeon toes. I know that was a stretch for my parents in the 70s.
Having those,
yeah,
it's sort of little wedges.
Yeah. They had like a little metal thing that they had to get start right or something. Yeah. But so I think I was happy. It wasn't, but we weren't well off. I don't think I probably experienced feeling well off or feeling like there was money properly until we moved to Hong Kong, which was kind of different experience. I think it was.
Yeah, a big change in direction for him though to go
completely. But he was my dad and my parents. Actually, it was both of them. My parents had agreed to go to Tasmania, where before I was born. And it was only because my mum found out she was pregnant with me and she had my 2 older brothers under the age of 5, and she would have had to spend 6 months in Tasmania while my dad trained with the Australian police force. That's the only reason they didn't go, because she would have had 6 months alone with 3 under 5-year-olds.
Fair.
Yeah,
fair.
If we can take that.
So define what being rich or wealthy is for you, those words. What do they sort of, or you can just choose one, I don't mind.
I mean, I mean, wealthy is these, I don't know, ability to. Is it for me? There's something much more about the wealthy about being moral. So it's how you are rich in a sense that's not just about money. It's about what you do to give back, how you engage. It's really interesting because my husband and I are the polar opposite. So he runs a tax practice, but from a corporation tax perspective, entirely just wants to make money and that's it. So you still for life.
Sure, but you still have a fiduciary responsibility.
You do. But I think I'm of a different mindset in that the reason I wanted this job was to come and do something, make something happen for the island, give it an outcome that I could be proud of, but other people could be proud of and engage in.
Yeah.
It was the opportunity that attracted me more than anything else.
I get where you're coming from. So how did you feel when, especially in your role, when the King Gaming scandal broke? I mean, for everybody that loves this place, it was like what? Oh my God.
But then it's not what a tourist would look for. I guess from a financial services side of things and from my colleagues in the sort of more business orientated agencies, that's tough.
Yeah.
And they've done everything they should have done and all of that. It was a different layer of corruption, I guess. But a tourist is not influenced by something like that. And I think that's where the island can be quite insular. We think everybody's talking about us, but we're really
great example.
We're really tiny on their perspective.
No, you're right. You get on with it and you do what you do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that doesn't stop us having beautiful countryside and, things for people to do here that they will love. Fantastic nature.
Ride a bike on your new track.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. And from all you've done so far, which is a lot, what's given you the most satisfaction?
You see, I don't feel like I've done a lot.
Well, you have.
I think for me, because I'm not used to working in a way. I mean, you have stakeholders, obviously, in every role, in every part of life. But I think we kind of on the island, we want change, but we don't want change. It's everybody talks. Yes, everybody talks about it, but the resistance to it is kind of, and we need to get cleverer at galvanizing the stuff that can really make a difference. There are people here that I'm astonished at how much of their own time they give to projects just because they care. Yeah. The volunteering just blows me away.
It's staggering, isn't it?
Yeah,
the number of charities here.
Yeah,
there's hundreds of them.
Yeah. So I think my frustrations have been around not making a big difference, but that maybe shouldn't be where I focus. Maybe I should be thinking about what are the small differences I can make to put us on to. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, lots of things, I guess. Our numbers are good, and I'm happy with that. But would like to solve the seasonality piece. So we have an issue between, April and end of October. I'm stretching it a bit, but that's fairly secure. Certainly May to September is really robust and we've got really good numbers. I'd really like to try and understand how we could drive traffic around. I moved here from Devon. There is no way you can't solve January's problem. You can't, but you can get little incremental changes around March and November, and obviously Christmas at December we could do stuff, and February even to a degree.
Brilliant. All right, we're going to talk about that in what future plans are. Save that.
Okay.
So you've come in and you're now the CEO of Visit. What would be your number one tip that you'd give to any aspiring organisational leader, business owner, is to be...
From an Isle of Man perspective, or just
what would be your number one tip to achieve for people who work with you, fulfilment and success?
I think you've got to have laughter. You've got to enjoy it. We are in that industry where exactly. Yeah. So we are dealing in holidays, and generally it should be good stuff. I think for me it would be trying to deal with the knocks and just trying to keep on an upbeat trajectory. So it's actually tracking the good things that have happened. And actually, if the knocks take you two downs the snakes and ladders type scenario, then it's that resilience almost to just keep going. Because I think that's the state of where we are, but I think it's also the state of where the world is. We can't not talk about the Ukraine or COVID and things like that and not think that all happened to us and it's still happening to us. I do think it's bizarre the way nobody politically talks about, and I don't just mean on the Isle of Man, globally, nobody talks about COVID anymore. It's like we can't mention it.
No. Yeah, it is. I suppose that as humans, maybe that's our recency bias.
Yeah.
And the fact that we are choosing to ignore it in many ways because the answers would be just too awful about the implications and the outcomes of what we're seeing now in other totally unintended ways. But nevertheless, they're there. I don't know.
They are there. I it's just being mindful, but not to let that stuff get to you. It's resilience, I think, more than anything.
Okay.
And you do that with a good team where you can have fun. And we've had some amazing creative meetings just this morning, which have really inspired me. And I think that do that every day. Just do that every day. A little bit of that.
Fine. Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that. So what do you do to relax, keep your life in balance? What's your, take up cycling? Are you for?
I have actually bought a bike since I moved here.
Wonderful. Have you used it yet?
Yes, I have, but I bought it in October, and unfortunately the weather, it wasn't the right time. But I said I was going to buy one, and then
that's why they have the end of season sales.
Yeah. The hedgerows in Devon obviously stop. Road cycling it doesn't stop it, but as a sort of, come back to cycling after 25 years of not cycling, it wasn't going to be a great place to do it. But here, the roads are open, you feel much safer, all of that sort of stuff. So I did buy one, but we've got a couple of old Labradors who are fabulous, but coming up to nearly 14. We obviously, what we've tried to do is visit places each weekend, especially once we've gone into our busy periods with work and everything. My husband and I have tried to get them out and about somewhere new. Their walking's a little bit dodgy now, so I'm finding the walks are getting shorter and shorter. But I love turning up in the office and saying, I went to so-and-so, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. And I'll start telling the team and they'll go, yeah. It's the stuff that they know and I need to pull out of their heads to say that's magical and that's really special.
So the best things about living in the Isle of Man, so you've come from Durham, Hong Kong, all over, Devon, here. So what's the best things? Why here?
I think it's ironically because we're going to talk about numbers of tourists, but I think it's quiet, it's safe, it's beautiful.
Yes.
It will never. The numbers we're talking about won't ever make it overrun. But there is something really special about, you don't see anybody, and we go to Langness quite a lot, and the end of that bit where you're walking around and
where clocks and people going.
Yes. Okay. Well, and the other side of it where the old hotel is.
Fort Island.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
cool. That just it just blows me away. It's just absolutely stunning, and it's amazing in good weather and bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a beautiful island.
Yes.
And quirky. I love the quirky. I love the characters. It's just some of the stories I've heard are unbelievable. It's like, that we need to capture this stuff. It's amazing.
Any you can share?
There's a chap, and I forget his name, but he runs a campsite during TT, and he gets all this stuff on TripAdvisor where everybody says the best thing about it is so-and-so's stories at the end of the night round the campfire. He actually won TT. I wouldn't like to guess or insult him by guessing how old he is, but he hid it from his dad, who ran a farm that he was doing racing. So he stored the bike at a friend's house, in a friend's barn or something, and then ended up winning a leg. So it was all over the newspapers the next day. I think he got into quite serious trouble with his dad. But there's another guy up in the north that makes I want to say makes violins. It was violins. Yes, I was thinking, was it cellos or violins? Hand makes violins. I just, this stuff blows me away.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Oh, do you? Okay. Yeah. But and even the simple things. We've got
they're nice violins too.
Yeah, I've heard that. Well, I used to play the violin, so that was kind of. But
that's right.
The Point of Airs, where and we get it. Down where we are as well, but the Point of Airs where the seals literally follow us, especially when we've got the dogs with us. They literally follow you along the beach as you're walking further. One of ours rolled in something really nasty, so we're trying to get her in the water to wash her off a bit before we sit in the car with her on the way home. But this seal, every time we threw the ball in to get her, he just kept going up to her, and then as we walked along a bit, because we were just a little bit nervous.
The jaws music, but
it was a little bit nervous. But he was just curious. It's like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, so this means threats and challenges the island faces.
Well,
because what I'm going to ask you after that. What would you do about it?
Yeah, okay. I mean, the airline industry globally is in a really bad way.
Still reeling from COVID.
Yeah. Still reeling from COVID. There's a massive shortage of planes all over the place. We're seeing airlines change their strategy, as we know. So connectivity is a real concern for us, and that's where we have to make this boat work for us. It is a massive issue, and we need to be really clever in how we work together and how we both work for the residents and for the visitors alike. Residents do seem to, we need to get off this. People have got family all over the place. They've got things that happen, and they do need to get off the island. But equally, we should use it as an opportunity to. We're saying a lifeline service for the steam packet. We should use it as an opportunity to bring spending visitors back. So that for me feels like, and I think that's what the Visit Isle of Man board have identified as our biggest priority, is the connectivity for the island. You've seen the press. EasyJet have reduced some of their
Manchester
and Liverpool planes, particularly. When you look at the sums, you could displace the visitors in most places onto other flights. So I can understand their strategy, because in the end, we were always just an add-on to their European strategy, and you've got to see.
I never want a plane here overnight because they haven't got the engineers.
Well, they're a commercial operator. They're always going to react like that. Yes. So I don't see the airline industry recovering for another 5 to 7 years.
No. Did you see what Logan Air did with their? They had the Isle of Man airline.
They've
blinked up a couple.
They've white labelled.
Blinged up.
Yeah. So but there's an opportunity to work further with them and grow that. And I actually think our opportunity visitor-wise and for residents is actually look at their partnerships. They've got partnerships all over the world. Why aren't we making that work for us? That feels like a huge opportunity.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Oh, okay. So, other than the Mark Cavendish track and the what else can you tell me about that you've got planned next?
We're in the middle of relooking at our 10-year strategy, so the 2022 to 2032. We have actually bypassed the average spend numbers that we were supposed to be at this point, but some of that's inflation.
Yeah, okay. But well done.
Yeah, thank you. We'll keep working on it. We have to keep setting the challenges, but we're relooking at where we need to focus. Connectivity is one of them. Product development, so that could be Mark Cavendish BGs, something much simpler. So this next year, you'll find on an annual basis will be more granular. So the Archibald knocks the railways.
Yeah, sure.
So we'll be
They've
concentrating
been
on
that for a few years, though. It was Isle of Sport, the Isle of Art, the Isle of...
exactly. So we'd think of it. There'll be longer term product development pieces and shorter term product development pieces. Then actually for Visit Isle of Man, this digital strategy is a huge thing. The tech, the AI, the digital piece, because we can help our stakeholders get to customers, and that kind of feels like the place we need to be in. I've been here 2 years, and it's been interesting finding my feet and making some small changes. I actually need to make some big changes soon, I think, to support the industry. And that has to be from a positive sense. That has to be in helping them make more money.
Yeah, and hopefully in a place that's both productive but also supportive from the, those in power.
Yeah, exactly. But I think there's a chance for us to be slightly removed from it, because we're not. Tourism is a great way to bring money onto an island to help the economy and to sweeten, I guess, the offer for the resident, because the residents might be bread and butter for a restaurant, but the real profitability comes from the visitor. Or it depends on where you are and what positioning you have. But tourism enhances a resident's offer, and that's how we have to look at that. We have to try and get them around the island in a way that works, because we can only do the same train certain times, and we have to make sure it works for them in terms of a satisfaction point of view. I think cruise could be enormous for us in terms of spend on the island. It already is, but it could be a lot bigger. There's 800 ships in the Irish Sea.
I know, it's amazing. John Shakespeare, he was another...
right, okay.
John, I did a podcast with him a couple of years ago, and that was just starting to come back after COVID.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Because
and the numbers are really improving now on as well, because I think they kind of...
Can they go on the other side of the island too?
Yes, so we've had boats. We've only had one stop in Ramsey so far, but we need to develop that. So the idea is that
Dredge it more like
we need, if we can bring bigger ships into Douglas, we can bring smaller ships into the other towns. Yeah, so that we can help them get an economic benefit as well. I guess what I'd say to all the stakeholders, there's a lot of lifestyle businesses on this island, and I get the VAT shelf and all of that. But actually, guys, if you've got a ship on a Monday, can you please open? Close on a Tuesday or Wednesday instead. It's
some people are just averse to making money.
Well, there we go. We'll help them as much as we can.
Yeah, wonderful. So a few fun questions. Books you've read, podcasts. What's your favourite listening?
Do you know, I don't do much of it. I'm much more interested in music. I tell you what blew me away on the island. My husband and I away, actually, the musical theatre scene.
Oh, it's brilliant.
It's unbelievable.
Isn't it just?
We were convinced, having gone to see, the Frankie Valli.
Four Seasons, what, yeah. The one in London?
No, here. What did they do recently? They've got Chicago, which I'm going to see on Saturday, but a few months ago they did... It's gone. Sorry.
It's all right. So I love musical theatre.
But just completely blown away. I actually, we went back home after the theatre, and we're looking them up, and we were convinced the stars that were on in the Gaiety were the people that were on YouTube. We were absolutely convinced until I mentioned it in the office a few days later, and one of the girls went, "No, so and so works with my brother."
That's my cousin.
What? I couldn't believe the professionalism.
It's
unbelievable.
Huge. It's a high standard in most things, the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
Here are many times, most things.
And the Gaiety is absolutely stunning. Yeah. It's just fantastic.
There's something about Jamie's coming on.
Yeah. Which I do really love that. But yeah, so I mean, there's lots of things. I tend to read, but I tend to read drivel.
That's okay. If anything helps you go to sleep.
It does, exactly. It's that whole point of just
switching
off.
Yeah. Any favourite drivel?
Not really. Any old drivel will do.
Fabulous. You got a favourite quote?
Oh, I was going to say, I saw one this morning that I just thought was really brilliant. I know. And then again, I've forgotten it already.
I'll think of another one.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Nope.
Oh, I do love the Francis Ford one, which was about that wasn't Francis Ford. It was Ford, and it was about if you ask people, the one about the cars.
Oh yeah, if you ask people if
They'd say
what they really want,
they'd ask for a faster horse.
that was it, and even at the car. Yeah. Do you want to say that again?
No.
Yeah. Okay. And so, where can people go to learn more about you and the organisation and the work you're doing? And we'll just share that in the show notes. Is it? So there's a Visit Isle of Man.
There's a Visit Isle of Man.
Is that visit.im? Visit.
Well, there's a few different versions of it, but the visit.gov.im. Yeah.
We'll put the actual link in the actual show notes. And you're on LinkedIn.
Yes,
Sandra, I stalked you on the
bit.
Yeah. And other than that, anything else you wanted to say that I haven't asked you about?
Just that I should have prepped about the quote in the book.
Pots. Do you know what? The rest of it was fabulous. So I like.
Yeah. Pod first. I like to cook.
Yeah.
Wonderful. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. Enjoyed that.
And you're confident the Isle of Man's in great hands going forward.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for listening this far. I hope you found this episode to be valuable. If so, I'd like to ask you for a small favour. Would you please go to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review, because that's one of the best ways for others to find the series, and please send a link to the podcast to 3 friends or colleagues who know they'll find it helpful. That way we can spread the word about how great a place the Isle of Man is to live and work, and help spread some positivity. Thanks again for tuning in and being part of our great community. I'll see you next time. Island Influencers is a fortnightly podcast. Make sure you don't miss the next episode by clicking the follow button on your podcast platform. A big thanks to the producer Catherine Watts from Social Cues and editor Martin Bamford at Bear Content, and thank you for listening.